Welcome back. South Africa is in its 20th year of democracy. We've gone from a nation characterized by segregation and racism to being referred to as a rainbow nation. Now, to take part in our ongoing discussions here on eNCA on the state of our democracy and how this impacts on the work of artists and musicians, we join now in the studio by Danny K. Danny, good morning and thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.
You started your career in the year 2000, like almost in the middle of this journey of democracy. How do you see democracy having benefited arts and culture in South Africa?
Well, for me personally, I remember being a 18-year-old kid and having black musician friends, and it was quite awkward to have them over at my house. My peers at school didn't understand why I was interacting with people across the color line. And thinking back then to now, it's quite ludicrous, that thought that was a real fear of like the segregation between us, especially as children. But music was always the vehicle that allowed me personally to break free of all of those fears and I guess social stigmas that existed.
I mean, for many artists in South Africa, pre-94 days were tough, and some people had to go outside the country to make it big and spread the message, like the late Miri Makeba as an example. But you of the younger generation, you've also worked across, as you said, with different musicians from different backgrounds. You've worked with Mandoza, for instance, from the Kwaito thing. How has that experience been for you, that cross-cultural world in terms of music for you?
The Mandoza album was kind of a turning point in not only I think in my career, but also in the music business post the elections and the arrival of democracy in South Africa. So we wanted to do an album that broke those stereotypes and broke all those perceptions of who could work with one another and who couldn't. And it was something very core to me as a young musician growing up. I wanted to work with black musicians, colored musicians, Indian musicians. I didn't want to be restrained to only work with white musicians from the suburbs. So the Mandoza project emancipated, I think, a lot of people in so far as that it said you're allowed to do what you want. And that's what music's about. Music's about getting together. As you said, Hugh Masekela, Miriam Makeba, Sipho Hotsticks Mabuse, they used music as the vehicle to change things, and I think that's what it's allowed me to do.
Yeah. Just the other day, the ANC launched its election manifesto, and part of it does talk about social cohesion and bringing everybody together. Arts and culture forms part of it. The ANC says it wants the government to invest more in arts and culture, things like film, your industry, music, books, publishing, and stuff like that. Do you feel, from what you've experienced, that the government is doing enough to support arts and culture broadly in South Africa as a young musician?
I think our biggest request on government and all the bodies underneath it, whether it be arts and culture or RISA or SAMRO, is to push all media, radio, television, to increase the quota of local music. And we don't say it because we want charity, but we say it because the more exposure there is to local music, the more of an opportunity we get for people to know it, to embrace it, to like it, to grow the industry, to get more tours, to get more CD sales, and it will in part increase exponentially. So I think we call on government to give us as much support as possible. In other territories in the world, the quotas are higher, and I think it's about time we started supporting.
Talking about quotas, local versus international, you have good views about that?
Well, that's kind of the challenge for us, is that when we submit a song to radio, we're facing an enormous amount of international competition. We feel our music deserves a fighting chance, and why not support our own, and like I say, it's not from a basis of charity, because I think there's enough good South African music, film, arts, plays out there to stand alone.
Okay, what are you working on currently? Have you produced a new album recently?
Yeah, my sixth album came out towards the end of last year. It's called Good Look, and yeah, it's been a great project to still be here, I guess, 13 years later.
I understand it's been nominated for some Metro Award?
Yeah, I got some Metro FM awards last night, Best R&B, Best Pop Album. So
good luck.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, away from music, I know you'll do stuff in the community. You've been involved with the Shout campaign in terms of crime, and how's that going?
I mean, this is one of our challenges, I guess, post democratic South Africa, is that while it feels great to be free, it comes with some enormous challenges in crime, poverty, education. These are some of the things we focus on. We're only 4 years old as Shout, and we're committed to still being here and making a difference. I think that's the responsibility on any good South African.
Danny, thank you very much for sharing
Thanks,
some
Dan.
of your views with you. That's South African artist and musician Danny K.
Know more about your world.
eNCA.com.